Welcome to your deep dive. So today we're diving into a really interesting set of headlines, all from India. They all come from April 6, 2025. It's like we've got this little time capsule. And our mission, well, if we choose to accept it, is to really unpack all these stories, give you the key details, the context, so you come away feeling like you've got your finger on the pulse of what was happening that day in India, ready to go.
I am. You know what's really striking about this collection of headlines is just the sheer range of stories we've got. We've got everything from sports to big international agreements to even a potential ecological issue. Like you said, it's like a little snapshot of a whole country in motion.
It really is. We've got triumph, we've got diplomacy, we've got some serious concerns, and we're going to unpack it all for you. So let's jump right in. Our first headline comes straight from the cricket pitch. The roar of the crowd. The IPL. On April 6th, there were two matches with some really standout performances.
Yeah, in these kinds of tournaments, these big high-stakes games, you can really see how one amazing individual performance can make all the difference.
So true. In the first game, KL Rahul for the Delhi Capitals, he just played a magnificent inning, scoring 77 runs.
Wow.
And this was so key in their 25-run win over the Chennai Super Kings. And it's interesting because this was Delhi's third win in a row,
Well, why?
while Chennai had its third loss in a row.
Oh, tough break.
Yeah. Rahul really anchored Delhi's batting, especially since the South African opener, Faf du Plessis, wasn't playing in this game.
Right.
He made some really crucial partnerships, helping Delhi reach a total of 183 for 6.
Yeah, in T20 cricket, that strong opening batsman, they can just set the whole tone for the innings.
Yeah.
Like it can be really influential.
Totally. Okay, so then in the second game of the day, we had Yashasvi Jaiswal for the Rajasthan Royals. He just put on a show, scoring 67 runs.
Nice.
He and the captain, Sanju Samson, they had this incredible 89-run opening partnership.
Wow.
And then Samson and Rian Parag, they also chipped in, which allowed Rajasthan to reach a huge total, 205 for 4.
Oh, yeah, 200 plus. In T20, that is a really tough score to chase.
Absolutely. And Rajasthan's bowlers, especially Jofra Archer and Sandeep Sharma, they did a great job of keeping the Punjab Kings down to just 155 for 9. So that was a 50-run victory for Rajasthan, but it was Punjab's first loss of the season.
Okay.
We did see some pushback from Chennai's Vijay Shankar and MS Dhoni in their chase, but yeah, they fell short. And then the Australians, Glenn Maxwell and Marcus Stoinis, well, they had kind of mixed days.
Yeah, ups and downs.
Yeah, across both games. So all in all, it seems like April 6th really belonged to the Indian openers, KL Rahul and Yashasvi Jaiswal.
Yeah, their performances were really the highlights of the day for the IPL.
Totally. Okay, so let's move from the roar of the crowd to something a little bit different. We've got a headline here about a pretty significant international agreement. This one involves India, Sri Lanka, and the UAE. So Prime Minister Modi visited Sri Lanka, and now they've got this plan to develop Trincomalee as a major energy hub.
This is really interesting because it has implications not just for the economy of the region, but also strategically. It's
Right.
kind of a big deal.
Yeah. The whole idea is to strengthen Sri Lanka's energy security, give them more affordable energy options, and maybe even open up the possibility of exporting energy down the line. Trincomalee is a really strategic location because it has a natural deep harbor, and it's already got some energy infrastructure.
Right. And if you think about the location, Trincomalee, it's in the northeastern Indian Ocean. Right?
Yeah.
So that gives it a lot of weight geopolitically.
Yeah.
Especially when you think about the bigger picture, like all the power dynamics in the region.
Exactly. And this whole thing is kind of being seen as a counter to China's increasing influence in the region.
Right.
China has been making some pretty big investments in Sri Lanka. There was that recent $3.7 billion deal with the Chinese company Sinopec for an oil refinery in Hambantota.
Yeah.
India already had some agreements for developing oil tank farms in Trincomalee. So this new agreement, it could really expand those projects.
Right. And then you bring in the UAE as well.
Yes.
And that adds even more complexity, but also a lot of opportunity because they've got that strong strategic partnership with India already in place.
Absolutely. The UAE and India, they've been working together a lot since 2018. And they've really been focusing on this kind of development, working together in other countries.
Yeah.
This new agreement, this memorandum of understanding, what it's going to do is help figure out which government and private entities will be involved in these business-to-business discussions, really bring this energy hub to life. Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri, he said that this project could potentially benefit all Sri Lankans, and it could really strengthen their energy supply.
So it'll be really interesting to see how all three of these nations will work together on this project. It's a huge undertaking, this energy project.
Yeah.
And to make sure that it's beneficial for everyone involved, that'll be the challenge.
Absolutely. It's a really significant move for India, not just in terms of countering China's influence, but also in terms of promoting economic growth, especially in the Tamil majority northeastern region of Sri Lanka.
Okay, now let's switch gears completely. And unfortunately, to a much more concerning story. This one is from Madhya Pradesh. Authorities are investigating a man accused of basically impersonating a cardiologist.
Oh, wow.
And this is really serious because he allegedly performed surgeries, heart surgeries, and at least 7 people died as a result.
This is awful.
Yeah, this is a really disturbing case. And it really makes you think about how vulnerable the healthcare system can be sometimes.
It does. So this suspect, they think his name might be Narendra Vikramaditya Yadav. And he was working at this missionary hospital in the Damo district,
Okay.
but he was using this fake name. He was calling himself N. John Kem.
Wow.
And get this, reports suggest he didn't have any real medical qualifications.
Oh, my goodness.
He was allegedly performing high-risk heart surgeries on people who had no idea.
This is so scary.
I know, and many of them tragically passed away shortly after.
Yeah, and the scale of this is what's so alarming. Some reports suggest that maybe as many as 12 people died.
Yeah. It's horrible. Apparently, some families noticed some inconsistencies, some things that didn't add up with his credentials, and that's what started the investigation. And then some patients, they went to get second opinions at a hospital in Jabalpur, and that's when they were able to confirm that he was faking being a foreign-trained cardiologist.
Wow.
And there's more. He's got a prior criminal record in Hyderabad, and he couldn't provide any legitimate ID or certificates.
Unbelievable.
I know. This whole thing is really troubling. And now members of the Human Rights Commission are saying that maybe government funds, the ones linked to the Ayushman Bharat Yojana health scheme, they might have been misused in this whole situation.
This just raises so many questions about how thorough hospitals are when they check the backgrounds of their doctors,
Yeah.
their qualifications. It's
Yeah.
pretty terrifying to think about.
Right. Like, how could this even happen? So he's disappeared, obviously, and the investigation is still going on. Officials are trying to find him, and get justice for the families. And of course, they want to prevent anything like this from ever happening again.
Yeah, absolutely. Now let's move to something a bit different. This one's from the world of agriculture. We're talking bees, honeybees.
Mm.
So a small hive beetle, it's not native to India, but it's been found there for the first time.
Oh, no.
Yeah, this little beetle, it's called Athena tumida. It was found in West Bengal in a honeybee colony in the North 24 Parganas district.
Okay.
And it's a big deal because this beetle, it's originally from sub-Saharan Africa,
Oh, okay.
but it's already caused a lot of problems in other parts of the world, like the U.S., Australia, and the Philippines.
Oh, so it's like a known troublemaker.
Yeah, basically.
Wow.
And this is one of those things, right, where global trade and travel, they can have unintended consequences, like spreading these invasive species.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So this beetle attacks the bee colonies. They feed on the pollen, the honey, even the bee brood.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and that weakens the hive, which can ultimately lead to its collapse.
So if the bees are in trouble, that means we're all in trouble.
Right. Bees are essential for pollination.
Hmm.
So for agriculture, for food production, it's a big concern.
Yeah, for sure. So what are they doing about this beetle?
Well, they need to up their monitoring,
Hmm.
increase biosecurity measures, and they need to do research on how to control this beetle and its impact. It's a big job.
So they were able to identify the beetle, right?
Yeah, they looked at his physical characteristics, did a detailed study.
Wow. Okay. So now Indian beekeepers, they've got this new challenge, how to protect their bees and keep producing honey.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Okay. So moving on, we've got a headline here about an issue that's been going on for a while, the conflict between the Meitei and Kuki communities in Manipur. It's been going on since May 2023, but now the central government has started its first formal peace talks.
Wow.
Yeah, finally.
Yeah, this kind of deep-rooted ethnic tension, it's really tough to resolve. It needs a multifaceted approach, sustained effort.
Yeah, absolutely. So a senior official from the Intelligence Bureau, A.K. Mishra, he led the meeting, and representatives from both communities were there, 6 from Meitei organizations and 9 from Kuki groups.
Okay.
They talked about restoring peace, obviously, rebuilding trust, and how to get rid of these road blockades that have been really disrupting daily life.
Yeah.
And really hurting the local economy. Home Minister Amit Shah, he had said before that there had been some earlier meetings.
Okay.
But this formal initiation of talks, well, not everyone's buying it.
Really?
Yeah, the mighty body COCOMI, they've dismissed the talks as politically motivated. They called it a hollow exercise,
Oh, wow.
which just shows you how deep the divisions are.
Right. So that's going to be another challenge, right, for the government
Yeah.
to navigate all the mistrusts, the different perspectives, to try to find some kind of resolution.
Exactly. So despite all the criticism, this meeting is a sign that the government is really trying to find a solution, a lasting one to this conflict. But it won't be easy.
Yeah. No easy answers there. Okay, so switching gears again. This time to a really interesting trend that's happening in South India, the rise of senior living communities.
Really?
Yeah, it's a growing trend, and it's kind of tied to the fact that more and more families are becoming nuclear families. And there's also a growing number of dementia cases among the elderly.
Wow.
Yeah, so cities like Coimbatore and Bengaluru, they're becoming really popular spots for these communities. Pleasant climate, good health care.
Makes sense.
Yeah. And then Chennai, it attracts people because of its connectivity and its medical infrastructure.
Right, right. So is it mostly seniors moving to these communities?
Well, you also have affluent families and NRIs. They're investing in these retirement homes for their parents.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And that's led to more upscale communities popping up, places that offer a whole range of amenities, meals, emergency health services, nursing care, social activities. It's pretty amazing.
Wow. So how big is this industry now?
It's grown a lot. A decade ago, there were just a few companies doing this. But now, there's over 150. It's pretty remarkable.
That is huge.
Yeah. And the cost can be quite high, from
Right.
about 40 lakh to 1 crore.
Oh, wow.
But for a lot of people, it's worth it because it offers a solution to the isolation that some older people face, especially if their children live abroad.
Right.
Experts say that even though this is a big trend, India is still lagging behind other countries, like China, when it comes to the overall infrastructure for the elderly.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so there's still a lot of work to do, a lot of investment needed to really meet the growing demand.
Totally. So this trend, it's not just about where seniors are living, right? It's about how they're choosing to spend their retirement years. It's about prioritizing care, companionship, and having that medical support readily available.
Exactly. It's a whole shift in thinking.
Okay. Let's move on to another headline. This one's about a really significant achievement for India's energy sector. The country has produced over 1 billion tons of coal.
Wow, 1 billion. That's a huge number.
It is. This happened in the 2024-25 fiscal year, and it shows a growth of 4.99% from the previous year.
So that really shows you how important coal still is in India's energy mix.
Yeah. And it's all thanks to the work of the coal public sector undertakings, private companies, and of course the nearly 500,000 coal mine workers across more than 350 mines.
Yeah, they deserve a lot of credit. And what's interesting is that not only has production gone up, but the dispatch of coal has also crossed that billion-ton mark.
Right. It shows an increase of 5.34%. And another positive thing is that India's coal imports have gone down, which means they're saving a lot of foreign exchange.
Yeah.
Coal imports, they went down by 8.4%, which saved them $5.43 billion. That's about 42,315.7 crore.
So even though the world is moving towards renewable energy, coal is still a major player in India.
Definitely. It powers over 74% of India's electricity, and it makes up 55% of the national energy mix. So these achievements in production and reducing their reliance on imports, these are really big steps for India's energy security and their goal of becoming self-reliant.
For sure.
Okay. Now, for a really distressing story out of Samastipur, Bihar, it involves a domestic dispute that turned violent. A woman is accused of forcing her husband to drink poison, and their young children witnessed the whole thing.
Oh my gosh, this is so sad and disturbing. It really highlights the problem of domestic violence and how urgent it is that we do something about it.
I agree. So this happened late one Friday evening, and the husband, Vikram Kumar Singh, he works in construction, and he's in critical condition.
Oh no.
Yeah. His mother filed a complaint against her daughter-in-law, Vibha. And the couple's kids, they're only 3 and 5 years old.
Oh my goodness.
They told the police that their mom sat on their dad, poured poison into his mouth, and even threatened him with a knife. The kids said she stabbed him. But when the police checked, they didn't find any stab wounds.
To think that young children had to see something like that, it's just heartbreaking. And the long-term impact on those kids, It could be devastating.
Absolutely. This case has sparked a lot of concern in the community about domestic violence and what it does to families, especially the children. The police are investigating, of course, and people are talking about the need for more support systems for those affected by domestic
Yeah,
violence.
for sure. We need to do more.
Okay, let's move to a more uplifting story. This one is about Indian boxer Hitesh. He's made history. He's the first Indian to reach the Boxing World Cup final.
Wow, that's amazing. It's a huge win for Indian sports.
He was competing in the men's 70-kilogram category in Brazil,
Okay.
and he beat France's Macon Traore 5-0 in the semifinals. So now he's got a shot at winning India's first ever World Cup gold in boxing.
This kind of achievement, it can be really inspiring, especially for young athletes. It shows them what's possible.
Absolutely. And to add to that, 3 other Indian boxers won bronze medals in their weight categories. Jadumani Singh in the 50 kilograms, Sachin Siwash in the 60 kilogram, and Vishal in the 90 kilograms. So this is a pretty big moment for Indian boxing. Hitesh reaching the final, everyone celebrating this huge milestone for Indian sports. And they're hoping that this will mean more support for boxing, maybe inspire future champions.
That'd be great.
All right, so for our next story, we've got a really heartwarming example of cultural and spiritual connection. 300 Indian-origin Pakistani citizens, they visited the Dwarkadish temple in Gujarat, India.
That's really beautiful.
Wow.
Despite all the political stuff that goes on, it's a reminder that these cultural and religious ties can be so strong.
Yeah, it really is. So these people, they live in Sindh, Pakistan. They're businessmen, professionals. And they got a 60-day visa thanks to a religious organization.
Oh, okay.
And they were just so happy to be there to offer prayers at the temple. They talked about the brotherhood between the two nations. It was really touching.
Yeah, it's so nice to hear stories like that. Stories that highlight the shared heritage between India and Pakistan.
Totally. And the temple priest, he welcomed them warmly. Some of them even said they felt a strong connection to India, like they wanted to stay.
Wow.
They also shared some positive experiences about living in Pakistan, and they're planning to visit other religious sites while they're in India. Some of them even want to take some sacred water from the Ganges back to Pakistan with them.
Oh, wow.
It's a beautiful example of how shared traditions can bring people together.
Definitely.
Okay, so now for a more controversial headline. It involves the online ticketing platform, Book My Show, and the stand-up comedian Kunal Kamra. Book My Show removed all of Kamra's content and his name from their artist list.
Interesting. So this brings up the whole question of freedom of expression, right? Where do you draw the line, especially in the entertainment industry?
Exactly. So this all started because of some remarks that Kamra made about the Deputy Chief Minister of Maharashtra, Eknath Shinde, during his YouTube show back in March.
Okay.
He called Shinde a Gadar, which means traitor. And because of that, multiple FIRs were filed against him. And a Shiv Sena member publicly praised Book My Show for taking this action.
Really?
Yeah. And Kamra, he's asked Book My Show if he can list his shows again.
Right.
And all this controversy, it actually led to some vandalism at a studio. Some Shiv Sena supporters did it.
Oh, my gosh.
They were arrested and then released on bail. But Kamra, he's been granted interim protection from arrest by the Madras High Court. But the police say that they're just gathering audience statements, a standard procedure,
Yeah.
and that they're not trying to intimidate him.
Right.
But yeah, he's facing some legal challenges. And Book My Show, they're not commenting any further on this whole thing.
It's a messy situation.
It is. Okay. So our next headline is about a big piece of legislation. President Momu has signed the Waqf Amendment Bill 2025 into law.
Now, this bill has been a topic of a lot of debate.
Yeah, it was passed by both houses of parliament after a lot of back and forth. And Prime Minister Modi, he said it's a watershed moment. He thinks it will improve transparency and protect public rights when it comes to Waqf properties.
Okay.
So the goal of the act is to reform how these properties are managed, make it more transparent, include different Muslim sects in the Waqf boards, and protect heritage sites.
And what about that part about non-Muslim members on the Central Waqf Council?
Yeah, that's interesting. So the new council will have 22 members, and up to 4 of them can be non-Muslims. The Minority Affairs Minister, Kiran Rijiju, he said this bill is good for poor Muslims and that the government's not interfering.
Okay.
But of course, there's been criticism. Some opposition parties say it's against secular values and it gives the government too much control. They say it's a constitutional issue.
Right.
But the government says it's just about modernizing things. It's part of this program for efficient Waqf property administration.
Mhm.
And they also got rid of that old act from 1923. So it'll be
Mm.
interesting to see how this all plays out, what the long-term impact will be.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so for our final headline, we're going to Australia.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Australia is going to get its first ever Hindu school. Yeah. The Australian government announced that they're going to invest $8.5 million for the school. It's going to be in Oakville, Northwest Sydney, and it's going to be run by the Hindu Education and Cultural Center.
Cool.
The school's going to follow the New South Wales curriculum, but they'll also be incorporating Hindu teachings, traditions, and philosophy.
Wow, that's great. It's a real recognition of the growing Hindu community in Australia.
Yeah, and it's a good example of how multiculturalism can work,
Mm.
you know, providing different educational choices that reflect different heritages.
Absolutely.
Mm.
And the Hindu community in Australia, they're super happy about this. They're the fastest growing religious group there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Politicians from both sides have expressed their support too.
Mm.
And there's also this really cool initiative called Karma Kitchen that helps homeless Australians. They're going to expand that too.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, so with over 680,000 Hindus living in Australia, this new school, it's a big deal. It's about preserving diversity, giving families more options, and strengthening the Hindu community there.
It's a really positive story.
It is. So there you have it. A whole bunch of headlines from India, April 6th, 2025. From the IPL to international agreements, from healthcare concerns to honeybees, from social conflict to cultural connections. It was a busy day.
Yeah, it really was. And
Yeah.
what strikes me is how all these different stories, they're all connected in a way. They show you the
Mhm.
many sides of a country, the progress, the challenges, how it interacts with the rest of the world. It's fascinating.
I totally agree. It's like looking through a kaleidoscope. So
Yeah.
what do you take away from all this? What stands out to you? Maybe something about how seemingly random events like a cricket match or a diplomatic agreement or a healthcare scandal, they can all come together to paint this bigger picture. What are the trends here? What might the long-term consequences be? These are all questions worth pondering, right?
Definitely.
So until our next deep dive, stay curious.